1, 2. Welcome to the Friendly Geordies podcast, minus Miss Love, who unfortunately couldn't be here to talk about this very important topic, Jordan. So, did you hear about the Australia Day controversy makes a comeback?
Now?
So, a company called the Australian Venue Company, which is owned by a Hong Kong private equity firm, they have a bunch of pubs in Australia. And there was an instruction initially by the headquarters that said, don't celebrate Australia Day at the pubs because it offends a large proportion of our patrons. So that went out, and then some of the people working at the pubs had an issue with that. And then like all of the, the MAGA crew and pro celebrating Australia Day crew, they went ham at the company and said, how dare you do this? And then the company issued a different one saying like, no, we love Australia Day. You should continue and celebrate Australia Day. And so like what I wanted to bring up is, what is going on here? This is too ridiculous. Like, if you want to do it, do it. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. But why is this? You're just bullying companies. They care about dollars. A Hong Kong company doesn't care about anything else.
You think that they're proudly patriotic about Australia Day?
They don't care, dude. They just want to get the most money. And so just stop bullying people. Like it's this. We should be, if you're offended by it, then that's fine. Don't celebrate. If you love it, then celebrate it. But just don't force other people to do shit. Is that reasonable?
Yeah, no, it is extremely reasonable. Man, how quickly the pendulum swings.
Man, yeah, I know.
Isn't it really strange? I was thinking about this. There was a point, and I do remember it clearly, maybe 2016, where I was thinking, women have gone too far. They are the new extremists. Feminism is not what it used to be. And that was definitely true for 2016. Then the Andrew Tate crowd started coming along maybe 2 or 3 years ago, and you started thinking, okay, I'm a guy. I think we're being way too mean to women now. Like, this has gone the other way.
Of course.
Entirely. There's always an equal and opposite reaction in culture. It really is just a point that I've been trying to nail on Friendly Geordies a lot recently, which is, God, the world was a better place when politics was not the realm of culture.
Yeah,
don't you think? As soon as they started thinking, okay, no, I really need to have a say on these matters, everything became really, and I hate this word, but toxic. The world is just a much worse place as a result of it.
Yeah, it is.
You can't get a happy middle ground from now on, and it's purely because, for whatever reason, I think it was really, I've got to blame probably the Murdoch press for it. They realize, I can get a headline for this, and then now they can't not escape that endlessly. Kamala Harris runs a campaign where she doesn't mention transsexuals once. She doesn't mention culture war. Every time she's ever brought the saying like, does it show you that women are voting for you more? Her response is, I'm running for all Americans. I don't care who votes for me. I hope that they all vote for me. I'm not singling anyone out. People's response is, she likes transsexuals, doesn't she? That's always there now.
Yeah, it's
constantly there.
There's always, this is so cyclical, dude. You have an explosion of one side of politics, and then you're immediately met with a reaction. This is just history repeating itself over and over again.
But
you had
I'm so tired of this paradigm. When is the culture war going to end? The only way that it's going to end is with a real war.
No, dude. If I'm following the pattern correctly, what usually happens is you get one side that gets really intense, then there's a reaction from the other side, followed by that reaction, there's a period of dull, where society becomes I'm basically basing it on like the 20th century. So you had like in the 60s, you had this hippie movement, mass protest. It's very similar to what was happening today with the Vietnam War. And there's equally loony stuff where hundreds of thousands of protesters march to Pentagon to levitate the Pentagon out of there. Hundreds of thousands. They came like, this is how we're going to stop this. We're going to, with our, LSD mind magic, we're going to levitate the Pentagon and it will fly into space.
Dang.
So there was.
Can we go back to that culture war?
Well, and then you had that, and then the correction of that was you had the Reagan years, which was just like loony left gone insane.
Yep.
After Reagan years, when that wore off, you had the 90s depoliticized zone where they found like Bill Clinton, who was basically a regular. And then from 2000s, you had like war on terror, which again escalated the political thing. The end of war on terror led to
But that
like.
wasn't really a culture war. It was a culture war in the rawest of
No,
sense.
that
was
led
a battle
to-
of civilizations.
That was I suppose, a battle of civilizations. But what happened was that the middle or the end of that war on terror coincided with the social media revolution, and the combination of both politicized a lot of people. So, for example, I got into the idea of being interested in politics from the war on terror, the war in Afghanistan, the war in Iraq, right? That's what. But what that eventually led me to was by the 2010 into left-wing politics that was, very much SJW-like. And so that was because of the war on terror as a consequence. And by the time it was 2017, 2018, I was like, these guys have gone way further than I ever was. This is a bit crazy. And so now you're going through the corrective period.
Well, what happens after that?
Well, again, if history repeats itself exactly, we're going to go through a period of
Clinton
depoliticization. Yeah, a Clinton period.
See, that was the best period. I miss the Clinton days.
But that'd be
That's how it
followed by,
should be.
again, the temperatures raising in some other faction.
Man. You know what I'm very happy about, though? I'm talking purely from a selfish perspective here. I think when I look at it, every single political trend that goes forward, yeah? So there was the whole... Where are you going?
One second.
There was the whole... During the 2016 period, and I'm just talking as a commentator here, the 2016 period where the loony left has gone too far. I very much resisted the temptation to get on the bandwagon and say, oh, yeah, too far, or like, it's really racist and shit. I always just stuck away from that, stuck to bread and butter issues. Then this new period came along, and I think that this new period is reined in by, I don't know, as you were talking about, political extremes, people saying that everything sucks and it's not good enough. And honestly, I think I've just been around long enough to know that one day that too will pass. And I think that generally the only thing that doesn't ever really pass is people need electricity, people want the environment protected, people want education. If you just keep talking about these things forever, you're never going to be that zenith. You're never going to explode in popularity. But the thing is, you are never, ever going to decline in popularity massively like all these other commentators do.
I think it depends on the season, bro. Every gameplay for every season is different. In some instances, that might be the case. But what I want to... And tell me if I'm wrong in this, but we need to like make this clear, particularly to some conservative who might vote for liberal or who might be. There are two factions, even in what you would call the far left. There's one faction which is the social policy faction, which is there's no genders, trans rights, LGBT rights, refugees, and all of that side, right? That's one faction. And then the other faction in that extreme far left are economic leftists who don't necessarily care about all this societal stuff, but care about economic policies that are more worker friendly and more people friendly. And I think both of those groups get lumped into one, whereas the fact is that the societal faction has essentially formed an alliance with the left establishment. Because the left establishment doesn't want the economic policies of the left because they obviously benefit from the system. They don't necessarily want the workers' policy. But what they do, what they are okay with is all the other society stuff. And so these two factions creating an alliance and ostracizing the other one has created the impression that all of the left is just crazy. Where it is actually a section of the left that's crazy, that is formed an alliance with the establishment, and there's another section in that left, the Paul Keating style faction, who hated just as much as any other conservative would. Really. Is that fair?
Well, definitely in America. I think that in Australia, it's just very different here in Australia, isn't it? When you're talking about politics, when you're talking about culturally and what is represented in the media, it is a direct reflection of what is in America. But when you're talking about somebody who's a Paul Keating type, yes, he was very interested in economic policy, but he was also very interested in Aboriginal issues. He was very interested in women's equality.
Yes, but there's a difference. So the economic left is interested in so for example, like someone like me who doesn't necessarily care about all the social issues, I care about Aboriginals like just as much as any other guy. But what I do care about more is policies that would materially benefit them, as opposed to policies that might, emotionally benefit them, let's just say.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
So if there was a policy, let's say if the referendum was about giving material, tangible advantages to the First Nations community, I think I would be more for that as opposed to a symbolic exercise. So I'm sure Paul Keating is interested in First Nations rights just as much as the other people are, but I think he prioritizes which ones are more important than the other ones. Because if once it gets symbolic, even someone like me who cares about the issue is like, all right, here we go.
It's very cringy.
It just... And also, it's impossible to convince the rest of the population with that.
Even if you did.
But if you were giving them a material benefit, I think there's reasonable people across the aisle as well.
Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the differentiation.
No, that is definitely the differentiation. You're right. You know what I've also noticed?
What?
Don't you think that online there is this massive trend in the US? You see all of the online commentators now saying the reason that the Democrats lost is because they are not giving out material policy benefits to the American public. Got to say, man, I mean, you can look at the Queensland election. I don't think that that sways votes.
You reckon?
I think that maybe the reason that they do generally go for those moods, and again, I am not one of these people that thinks that the Democrats were too woke. They were definitely too woke in 2016. They were not in that last election. But they were going through the whole feely thing of this is, a takeover of democracy. This is a dictatorship. Donald Trump is a deplorable man. They were going through all of those. That was the general campaigning vibe that they were trying to put out. I've got to say, man, I honestly think that that is probably the better winning strategy, and it's just that the times were against them. Because you look at it. You look at what Stephen Miles offered the public in Queensland. They weren't interested.
But he did still do. What do you think about this? I was also thinking, what if everyone that receives Centrelink payments received a Christmas bonus?
Why? Why would that matter?
To get votes, bro. It'll create a better... man, it's... I'm talking about bribery here,
I think that, honestly, people just emotionally agree. This is what I honestly think when it comes to politics. People are guided by their emotions, and then they rationalize it later with policy.
Yeah, but like when someone that receives Centrelink payments receives unexpected extra cash as a Christmas bonus, I think it's going to create a favorable view of the current government for them. People get sold for really cheap, bro. Honestly.
Look, man, I honestly did think that.
And fucking Scott Morrison did that with coronavirus. He gave bonuses every single payment.
Think about that. He gave away so much welfare.
Yeah, because
more
like
welfare
Albo
than
did
probably
the same.
all of Federation combined.
I don't know. I'm just saying it wouldn't hurt.
That was like... That was way past what a universal basic income would have ever have been. That was just straight up, here's your paycheck, but way better.
Yeah, but way better. And for like months.
And for months. And he still lost.
Yeah, he did, but I think
that he generally lost because people got the vibe that Scott Morrison's a bit of a dickhead. That was it.
I suppose. Look, I'm not saying that that's like
maybe
the silver bullet.
This is honestly the only time that I ever think that policy really matters. This is the only time. a depression or a war. That's it. Other than that, people do not care. Because until it gets to that point, until they are legitimately starving, until they're legitimately homeless, they don't care because it doesn't really materially impact them. You can sit there and say, yeah, it does materially impact them. I'm really poor, and if I got the 50-cent bus fare, then I would, which was passed anyway, but I'm using it as an example, then I save $100 a week, and that helps me buy groceries. Yeah, that's all well and good. But you weren't starving, were you? Some people were. The vast majority of people in Australia and even in America, you can put all the stats you like of, oh, these many people don't have health care, these many kids go hungry every week. That is not the majority of the population. The majority of the population is not that desperate. It is compounded even further when it comes to America by the fact that you don't have to vote, which means that all those starving people just opt out of the system and say, oh, they all suck. And so they've got zero interest in it, especially because if you are starving, you don't have time to think about high-minded policy. And it probably is the same when it comes to Centrelink. Am I wrong?
No, you're not. I think, generally speaking, you're not wrong. But I'm just saying, man, why is it on Labor's lap to be fiscally responsible every time? Just give out a few handouts and see. It wouldn't hurt you. It's worth doing, dude. And also, like, at the end of the day,
they did give out handouts.
Centrelink payment.
They gave out huge handouts.
Well, yeah, keep going. Which handouts are you talking about, though?
Well, I'm talking about the biggest tax cuts in a generation. I'm talking about wage increases that double anything that the Liberals ever did. I'm talking about I read this stat today, I think, 15% of people that are in the gig economy. Keep in mind, this was just passed not that long ago. I think it was maybe last year. 15% of people out of the gig economy, as in they're not working on Uber and then also doing menu log deliveries and also, I don't know, playing at weddings and things like that. 15% of that population now has stable employment. Job creation out the wazoo. Million jobs created in the same time period that I think Malcolm Turnbull was the next best one, and he created 500,000. This is during the global cost of living crisis. That is no small feat. Where's their kudos for it? There's nothing.
Well, let's hope it's enough. But you gotta...
I honestly just don't think that it is, man. Like, I think that, honestly, it all comes down to vibe. And I think that, yes, policy might be able to play into it. So I think that you're right in the sense that if the Labor Party made more of a boogeyman out of the supermarkets, it wouldn't be good for policy, but it would be good for theatrics. It would be good for their image. But as you're saying, tangibly, really, if Labor did absolutely nothing on supermarkets, which they did a lot, if they didn't do anything on it, really, at the end of the day, if people get the vibe that Peter Dutton's scary and Anthony Albanese is a steady pair of hands, they're going to go with a steady pair of hands.
Hopefully. We'll see.
I think that's the same thing with David Crisafulli and Stephen Miles. People like Stephen Miles. They just got that general perception in their head because of media bias and dark money, as we've gone through 1,000 times, that Crisafulli is. But when you look at Crisafulli, you do not get the vibe that he's an incompetent psycho. You just get the feeling that he's just another boring bureaucrat. That's fine. I'll move to that. I think that you're right, what you were saying in the previous part of the podcast, that you can sign up to our Up Late so that you get the beginning portion of this podcast and you get an entire podcast on top of that. You would be crazy not to sign up to it. Absolutely mad! So sign up today. But he was talking about it before, that the one thing that would absolutely help Labor in the next election, and I completely agree with it, versus an audience of independents, Greens, Liberal voters, National voters, sit there, take them on. Nobody is on your side in that audience. It is just Albo versus the public. That's what you do from here on, once a week. You clip up all of that, you chuck it out on TikTok of Anthony Albanese owning the public. I think that would work. I honestly think that, dude, I am very much in the field of what all of those Democrat and Republican types think about all the time, which is just purely perception. I think that it's an unfortunate thing about politics, but I think that it gets results. And I think that the Democrats just didn't have a very good perception. It was built on the fact that it was bad economic times, but it was also built on the fact that Trump is funny as shit.
Yeah, there's definitely that. And Peter Dutton
just think about
is
that, right?
not.
Like, if you think about it from a logical perspective, when it comes to the Democrats, they were offering a far better future to the American public than the Republicans could ever dream of offering.
Yeah.
And they voted for them in every house.
Peter Dutton just does not nearly have the sort of charisma that Trump did.
He doesn't
It's
have
like,
that.
do you remember that debate point from the U.S.? I can't remember which politicians it was, but one of the politicians said, my policies, I'm very much like RFK. I'm very much like Bobby Kennedy. My policy platform is similar to Bobby Kennedy. And his opponent just goes, I knew Bobby Kennedy. You're no Bobby Kennedy. And like Peter Dutton should be the same. I know Donald Trump. You're no Donald Trump.
Yes. I mean, honestly, that is the best thing that Albo could say to Peter Dutton. The best thing. Look at him, he thinks he's Trump.
Where's the money, Peter?
Where's your money at, Dutton? I know you're rich. Is that rich, Matt?
All right, well, speaking of, let's talk about the second topic. Biden pardons his son, Hunter Biden.
Now, why do you care about that? Because I don't care.
Well, I didn't particularly care about that until I read an
Very
opinion,
stimulating, thought-provoking
an opinion piece, and it made me slightly more concerned.
Question everything.
Well, so the thing, but there's a solution to it as well. The problem, so for those of you that might not know, I'm just going to quickly recount what exactly Trump pardoned Hunter Biden for, what the charges were. Do you know exactly what the charges are?
No, don't care.
Okay, so there's essentially two main charges. There's some sub charges within them, but like there's two. One is that he didn't pay his taxes for a particular period of time. The taxes eventually amounted to $1.3 to $1.4 million that he never paid. The second charge was that he had bought a gun at some point.
Yeah.
When he had bought this gun and he filled out the form, there's a question, are you on any drugs? And he ticked no, which is why he got his gun license or whatever. He was on very, very heavy drugs at the time.
Hell yeah.
He was on like all sorts of cocktails of drugs.
Yeah.
Okay, so the taxes bit, eventually he paid those taxes.
Good boy.
A friend of his, which is again another dicey thing, but someone had given him money to pay those taxes. The gun stuff. So what Biden essentially argued is he claimed that he was never going to pardon his son. So there's a massive deception there. But what he argues is that this whole thing is politicized, where if it was any other person that wasn't the son of the president, or wasn't the President Biden's son, no one would bring up the fact that he bought a gun when he was on drugs because he didn't use that gun for any crime. It's not that there was a shootout and then he had lied about it, all of that stuff. He's saying that ordinarily the Justice Department wouldn't pursue a case like that. The second thing about the taxes is that he has paid his taxes with interest. So what would have happened was that there was supposed to be a plea deal with his case where he would plead guilty to his offenses. And as a result, the prosecution would give him some favorable terms. His prison sentence might be really low. The judge essentially just went berserk and said, no, you're not going to get a plea deal. You've committed these crimes. If you're going to plead guilty, you're going to get the sentencing that follows that. The sentence could have been 10, 15 years. I don't know. It depends. So Biden said that even though Biden said that I wouldn't pardon my son, I pardoned him because ordinarily this wouldn't have been brought up anyways. The other aspect of it is that there's an emotional aspect too. He is the last surviving kid from a family of Biden that are all dead now. So for those of you that might not know, Biden's first wife and his daughter were killed in a car crash ages ago. His two sons, Beau and Hunter, were severely injured in it. Beau was the good kid. He did everything right. Went into military, went to school, was supposed to be the next president, randomly dies of brain cancer. Tragic story. So you're only left with Hunter Biden. So this is an 82-year-old president who has a son that is about to go to prison, which he thinks, it's debatable whether you agree with him, he thinks are charges that ordinarily someone wouldn't have gone to jail for, but because he's my son, he's going to jail. So he pardons the son. The drawback of this is that this is the opinion, this is the point that I was talking about, which made me think about this in a different way. If you pardon Hunter Biden, that essentially gives the license to Republicans to now go for a vendetta against every person, every politician that was involved in Trump's cases. Because he believes the same thing, that, you know, like, these are all trumped up cases. They weren't supposed to, but because they wanted to persecute me, they went for it. So this allows him to go after the Democrats or the bureaucrats within the administration that went against Trump during those cases. And so essentially, Biden has put the Democrats in a very, very difficult situation.
Come on, as if they wouldn't have gone after them anyway.
I don't think he would have, because when Trump was asked, would you pardon Hunter? He said, you know what? I would consider that. I would consider that. There's no doubt that Hunter is a bad boy. He's a bad boy who's been up to bad things. But I would consider that. Well, so I think the only way that now Biden can avoid this issue, there's an easy way. But the Democrats are going to hate this too. You pardon Trump too. And you say all pardoned. That way, it removes the steam.
And on top of that, Trump is just going to pardon himself immediately.
Well, he doesn't need to pardon. The Justice Department immediately after his election dropped all cases against him.
Yeah.
So I think Biden should just pardon him so that he doesn't have this stupid, talking point. It's like the Democrats, they look what Hunter Biden did. He was supposed to go to jail, and Joe Biden, they're all corrupt. Like, he's going to use that to go against them.
Yeah, but I think the whole thing is, look, Joe Biden's a lame duck president. He was screwed over by the Democrats massively. He's obviously been screwed over by the Republicans. He's been screwed over by America. As you said before, lost 2 kids. I just give America a middle finger as well. Do a classic Ray Pattinson in The Simpsons. You're all screwed. Thank you, bye. And then, yeah, look, I would even honestly, my only point of differentiation with Biden is he should have just come out and said, when they said, are you going to pardon your son? He just was saying, yeah, I was saying that when I was running for election. And then I wasn't running as president, and I'm still president, and he's my son, so fuck you. And then just out you go. You're 82 years old. Everyone hates you anyway. Just start flipping off America.
But what about integrity? He said that he wasn't going to pardon his son.
Yeah, all well and good.
But you have to admit that politicians need to make big sacrifices.
A single person's vote.
It's not that
any Democrat ever going to look at that and be like, "Oh, I thought this was a party."
It's not that it would have changed votes. Is it that did you lead a principled life while you were at office?
Yeah, honestly, look. Now that's the thing. The ultimate baller move, and you're right, would be to come out and say, you should have just made a press release, and you should have said, this is why everyone in America is a scumbag, and I'm so much better than this country, and you don't deserve me. Even though this is a trumped-up case, even though this is my only son, even though this is a complete farce of a court case, I still respect the law, and Trump does not. You watch him, he's going to pardon every one of his cronies, let the history book show that, and leave. But at the end of the day, once you're dead, you're dead. Do you really care what's in the history books at that point? I think I'd just rather hang out with my son in the last 6 years of my life that I have.
What you're saying is practical, and I suppose 9 out of 10 people would do exactly what he did. But I just think, I don't know, there was this old concept that...
They reckon 99 out of 100?
Would do it?
I reckon there's so few people that if they had the power to pardon their son, especially when, you're right, it is a trumped-up case. And look, to be fair, I think that a lot of what they chucked at Trump was trumped up. Certainly not all of it, but a lot of it.
A lot of it was trumped up.
Yes, I understand that this is highly politicized.
Yeah, they made the same mistake. The Democrats shouldn't have gone after Trump the way they did. It made him a martyr anyways.
You're right about that, Ali. You were right about it.
Yeah,
and you were calling this years ago.
Yeah, I remember when they started doing it. For multiple reasons. One, I knew it was politically bad, and secondly, I knew it was legally bad too. They were really trying to stretch stuff there.
Stretching it. And trying to get New York State Department to try and prosecute a president
Yeah.
that is running for election.
And so that was bad. And now this is, I just hope that Trump, plays a Mandela-like game where he's, forgiving and he brings the country together.
Well, this is the really weird thing about Trump is that, as everyone knows, I think it's his greatest asset is the fact that you can never predict what that ADD-riddled man is going to do. Sometimes he's just got vengeance all over him, and then sometimes somebody just says, "You want a McDonald's burger?" and he's like, "Give me a fillet of fish." And then he forgets about it and then says things like for instance, running an entire campaign, "Lock her up. We got to lock her up." And then he gets in and he says, "Nah, I don't want it anymore." And then the crowd cheers.
And he does. And he gave a very sweet reason as to why he wouldn't want to lock her up too.
Why?
He was like, I have some principles and I wouldn't want to see that happen to a former first lady. I can't do that.
It's nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
See, he does have this weird streak of clemency that does pour through him.
Yeah, it certainly proved it more than the Democrats did, because as soon as they got into power, they went into fucking vendetta mode against him.
Well, I mean, look, he did incite January 6th, so.
Yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, he did. But I don't know what you achieved out of that. Having said that, okay, Trump seems to me like a one-trick pony, dude. He has one playbook. He has one thing on his book: tariffs. He's been going on and on about before he's even coming to presidency, he's threatened Mexico and Canada with massive tariffs, which I think is something that the U.S. Deep state would absolutely hate. They would loathe the idea that he's picking a fight with Canada and Mexico.
Yes, sir, they would.
They would love him picking a fight with China.
Yes.
But they would hate the Mexico. But he's threatened Canada and Mexico. He's threatened the BRICS countries, bro. Brazil, Russia, India, China.
So pretty much the world.
Yeah. And he said, and he's so open about it too. He's like, I'm going to put tariffs on you if you even think of not using the dollar as your reserve currencies.
Even think.
Even think. Which is something that I think is a big threat for U.S. hegemony.
Yeah, well, look, if there is one silver lining about Trump getting elected, I'm very happy about this. I think that he has really accelerated the decline of the US empire massively. And it's going to where it should rightfully be, which is that you have a multipolar world where you have China in control of Asia, you have Europe, the EU in control of Europe, you have Brazil in control of South America. This is where the world should be. There should be checks and balances. And I think that the Americans well and truly have displayed, especially over the last two decades, or ever since the Iraq War, really, that they do not deserve to have that level of primacy.
Yeah, but have you heard John Mearsheimer?
Yeah.
Have you heard his view on this? So the Americans, he says that the Americans, and this is bipartisan, they don't want a multipolar world at all.
Of course.
They're a very jealous superpower.
As they would be.
And they don't want, not only obviously they don't want any other country.
But man, okay, I really like John Mearsheimer's framing in all of this, where he says, look, I'm an American, so I'm interested in American interests, but I can also see it from other countries, which I think is something that our audience seems to have a real problem with digesting. Which is that, look, I care about Australian interests because I'm Australian. That does not mean that I can't see Japan's perspective or China's perspective.
He's good with
it. And he's very good at that.
He's good at that. But dude, you have to understand that his worldview is also fucked. His worldview is that you shouldn't pick fights with Russia. First of all, they believe that the greatest tragedy is that the U.S. has somehow made Russia and China together again. He's saying that we worked incredibly hard, and it was Nixon who provided the breakthrough where they separated China and Russia to have a two-pronged fight against both the countries. So his entire thing is we should approach peace in Ukraine, we should approach peace in the Middle East, only to mobilize our forces against China for the next world war.
Yeah.
I can't get behind that. You have to understand.
Yes, I totally get it. It is an insane perspective, but Ali, That is the American perspective.
It's effed up. We have to.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't like, because I'm an Australian, I don't like them having that level of power because they're nuts. But he should have that perspective.
He shouldn't have that perspective.
That's him.
He should have the perspective of you should accommodate other powers. Otherwise, we're headed towards a nuclear war. How is that a difficult proposition to understand?
Yeah, you're right. In an ideal world, he should have that perspective. Yeah. But I like the fact that when I've listened to him, he is able to explain, if I was Chinese, this is what I'd want.
Yeah, for sure.
I have not seen many people do that ever.
Yeah, because he's a realist, and I like that about him. And this, which is why the Chinese also like him. They're petrified of him, the way he explains things.
They respect power.
Yeah, he even gave I'm glad that he was in India, and I saw a talk of his in India, and he made the best point that I think Indians should know for their own national interest, which is that he's like, it's not that America hates China and loves India. He said that to Indians in a group full of Indian intelligentsia, that if you ever got to the point where China is, you better believe that the U.S. is coming after you.
Hell yeah. Man, that realist, real.
That is so
That's real.
But I'm glad that someone told them that, because I think they needed to know this.
They needed to know.
They
probably didn't think that.
They didn't. Well, maybe some did, but they...
Generally, as a unit, probably not.
Probably didn't, yeah.
I mean, in Australia, we don't think that.
Yeah, but I don't think in Australia we can get as big as India could.
No. But I honestly think that our Canberra boffins do genuinely think, the Americans have a sacred bond with us from World War II, and they're our best friends in the world. And they're going to help us against all of our dark enemies, no matter what, because that's what friends do. I think they think that.
Yeah. I think they do. And I think they're kind of right, because Australia doesn't have the potential to be a threat to any hegemon.
Yeah. But
we're a middle power
I don't think they
country.
have that layer that you've just explained. I don't think they have that in their head.
Yeah, I don't think they have.
I read their think tank pieces.
Because sometimes I think they're really advocating for stuff that is against their interest. For example, undermining the United Nations is completely against Australian national interest.
Totally.
But conservatives will just say that without realizing that this is bad for us as a country. They'll just side with the US. And it's the US is strong to handle those affairs, dude. How are we going to do it? We need international bodies. We need a coalition that can protect us from arbitrary invasions, arbitrary, decisions. If China decides to take over islands, our only thing is America will come after us. But we also need to have the backup where we have the international architecture to protect us. But anyways, you're right. We don't think about it as deeply.
We don't think about it as deeply.
Hey, next segment was Jordan's crazy week, which I haven't heard about, and I'm keen to hear about it.
Week.
What happened?
Dig this, Ali. All right, so I had a show booked for me in Mackay. Keep in mind, I don't know where Mackay is. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be able to locate it on a map today. I know that it's somewhere up north in Queensland, but not that north. But anyway, I'm going out there. 2 flights you got to catch to get there. That was all well and good. I go to Mackay. Do you know anything about Mackay?
No.
See, I
except for that it's
Mackay
in Queensland.
is such a stupid place that it's one of those places where it's dude, the way that you spell your name is not the way it should be spelled. It should be Mackay. And it makes way more sense if it's called
Mackay. Is that the town near Cairns?
I mean, nothing's near Cairns, but relatively.
I think
I think Cairns is probably still 6 hours.
I know where it
it's
is.
so massive. It goes on forever.
I might have been there once when I was a kid, but anyways.
Why?
Yeah. I think we were in Cairns and we were just going out, tourist stuff.
No, there's no way then. There is
Yeah,
no
maybe
way
not.
that you just had a family stroll down to Mackay.
Yeah, maybe not. Anyways, so what's Mackay about?
You know what Mackay's about?
Magpies. No.
Why?
I don't know. It just sounds similar to magpie.
Oh, okay. Oh, you had to go. All right. Well, maybe they've got some magpies there. I didn't see any. Can't confirm that, Ali. What I can confirm is you're flying into Mackay, and you see the biggest coal ports I've ever seen in my life. And keep in mind, I've flown around Queensland a lot. I've never seen coal like that before, man. Seeing those coal ports made me think, maybe the Greens have a point. You know, it was so much coal. Surely this is what's powering India. Single-handedly, this port. I couldn't get over it. It just extended on forever. You go into Mackay. This is what runs Mackay. It has got to be the most evil place on earth. Coal and sugarcane. Just in case they weren't killing the reef quick enough. They've also got sugarcane everywhere. You drive into Mackay, and in the CBD of Mackay, where there probably should be, I don't know, a hospital, a school, a plant, something, anything. It's the CBD. There's more fucking sugarcane fields in the CBD. In the CBD of Mackay. Maybe there should be some trees that you left over there. No space. Got to make more sugarcane, mate. Why? Because it's in just dangerous decline of not being dangerously oversupplied. That's why we need it. As your backup. So you're going around in Mackay. That's what you said. We go into the mall. We're walking into the mall. You can only imagine, because every time that I'm paying out Queensland, I always need to make this proviso. I love Queensland more than any state in this country. I wish that I was a local Queenslander. It is the best place on earth. Really is beautiful one day, perfect the next. Except in Mackay. I'll get to that in a second. That place is just fucking hot. That's it. Honestly, I've only ever experienced this there and Qatar. You get off the plane and immediately you're crawling on the ground. It's so oppressively hot. And it's just, I have to stress this, no trees. And you're going through the airport and you go, the proud men and women, heroes of Mackay. And you've got one guy that got a Southern Cross in World War II. Then you have Kathy Freeman. You have some other bullshit runner you've never heard of before. Some Paralympian that you have definitely never heard of before. And, of course, world champion radio rider Todd Todson, or whatever his name is. And then there's just some guy, and they've got a statue of this cunt in the airport of him going like, yeah, on a bull. That's Mackay in a nutshell. Okay, Queensland, international viewers, just in case you don't know, Queensland is what you think Australians are. That's Queensland in a nutshell. When I was watching the local news, they just have King Wally Lewis there for no reason. It's just the fact that Wally Lewis exists. You know who Wally Lewis is?
No.
Wally Lewis is a guy that's just an absolute legend of NRL because he's just the ultimate Maroons player. And so his name is King Wally Lewis. And he's sitting on the fucking news. Because the volume was down, but you're walking in after you see the guy on the rodeo. Yeah! There's just King Wally Lewis sitting there in his shitty fake king crown, sitting there in some pub, and then there is all these Queenslanders walk up as if he is fucking royalty. As if he's royalty, worshipping the ground that he walks on. We're not worthy, King Wally. Yeah, okay, you want this jersey signed, mate? Good on you. It's so hilarious. Queensland is the parody that you think the rest of Australia is. And I'm sure that we are that parody. But to us, Queensland is what you think in your head. It's filled with crocodiles, kangaroos, cunts with cowboy hats in Parliament that do wrestle crocodiles for fun. That's Queensland. And then Mackay is a parody of Queensland. Mackay is a parody of Queensland. It is the funniest place I've ever been to in my life. So anyway, we're going past the sights of Mackay, which is absolutely nothing, just hot as shit. That's the sights. And we're going past, and there is a billboard there, and we just start laughing our asses off because it's just, your local weather team. And it's just clearly cunts that obviously used to be in the rodeo before. All these thick-necked, suntanned fucks sitting there. We're like, yeah. And they're indistinguishable from the real estate agents of the billboard below them. And we start laughing. Saying, here, it's called Sugarcane News, because the local farmers can't count to 7, so that offends them, so we call it sugarcane news. And everything's just fucking sugarcane there. So we go to the mall, we're laughing at all the freaks that are in there, and again, lovingly laughing at them. Everyone that you could imagine. Really muscly, scary guys walking around that are really, really muscly, super muscly, and have no shirt but a neck tat. That's it. No tattoos anywhere else. Just tattoos all around their fucking neck. What a look that is. Every single teenager there has the scariest mullet I've ever seen outside of Western Sydney in anywhere that's predominantly Lebanese. You know how they have like particularly fucked haircuts, right? These haircuts were more fucked than that. Every single boy there has shaved, completely bald shaved here, and then this really scary Mad Max 1 mullet down here. Hey! That's everyone. So we're just laughing our asses off walking out there. Anyway, Miss Love gets lost when he walks out of the mall. And so we're driving around it, laughing at how much sugarcane there is. Their local mall is called Sugarcane Mall. I shit you not, it's fucking called Sugarcane Mall. Guys, the funniest place I've ever been. This is how funny it is, Ali. I go do my show there at one of the best venues I've ever been to. I love it. I really like the venues that I've played at in far north Queensland because it's this oddly cool bar. Sorry, I forgot to mention this. When we're going in to the bar, middle of the day, not the middle of the day, it's probably about 4 o'clock at this point. We pull up opposite it, naturally, because it's far north Queensland. It's the entertainment district, so it's just nothing but, I don't know, bathroom supplies, spotlight, massive strip club that's bigger than everything else. It's huge. Just so big. Huh?
Of course. What else are you going to do? Dude, that muscly dude with the neck tat. How do you think...
He's got to spend his coal money on something.
He's got no hobbies.
That is his hobby,
He goes to the gym and the strip club and the mall naked to pick out his shirt for his next strip club visit.
I've never seen this before in my life, but there was in front of the strip club, there is a woman there that is clearly a prostitute, like really old as well. Well, maybe just because it's Queensland, maybe she was 21, but she looked old as shit.
The sun is harsh up there.
Yeah, so she could have been. She could have been 25. I don't know, but she looked 55. She looked postmenopausal. She's got no teeth. Smoking, rambling to herself, talking on the phone. She's got fake tits that she obviously got maybe a year ago because they're still really perky, but the rest of her face is, nothing but leather. And she is out the front of this strip club. And I've never seen it before in my life. I thought this was just in movies. A trick drives up. She sees us. We're unpacking. She sees us completely unfazed. Leans into the car window, pick him up 4 o'clock in the middle of the day, and then this cunt just drives around the corner. And then we see the car stop in the alleyway there, and they're just there. You know? just a fucking, oldest trade, good old-fashioned transaction right there. And I'm talking to locals afterwards. They're not fazed by this at all. They really do not care. They don't care in the slightest. We go into the club. It's the best club I've ever seen in my life. I find out the reason why is because a lot of the time it was exactly the same thing in Townsville. For whatever reason, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because they realise there is a bunch of coal money up there, and so you can move up there and you can build a pretty good bar. He builds this sick, obviously millennial nostalgia bait bar. It's just filled with Super Marios, filled with old, Tekken arcade games. There's an old Tekken arcadey place. I go in there. The guy's mad. The staff are awesome, legends, because it's Queensland. As I say 1,000 times every time I talk about Queensland, I love you to bits, but I like you in the same way that I would probably like my brother if I had one and he was mentally handicapped. I love him more than I would love all my other family members. But if you ever understood why, that would completely negate the reason that I love him more than the rest of them.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Do you think that's Queensland in a nutshell? I love Queensland.
And I think Queensland wouldn't mind this either. Just be like, yeah, we're a beat fact.
I've got a story for you. So, anyway, showtime happens. I walk on stage. I couldn't get a word in. Not one. Just immediately, endlessly.
At that point, your show is the heckle.
Dude, this is the first time that has ever happened to me. I've been doing stand-up for, 7 years now, professionally, touring the country. I have never in my entire life had a show where the show was the audience. I was the audience. You understand? The audience were the performers. I was the audience. And it is just endlessly cunts just yelling out absolute bullshit. My friend's got a pin dick. How big is it? 2 inches. Yay! Two. My friend here's got 1 inch, Geordie. Fuck off, cunt. Your fucking cock's smaller than me, cunt. Go up on stage and show him, Geordie. Just that for 2 hours. 2 hours. To give you an idea, how good was this? There was a few teachers that came up to me afterwards and said, look, that show was mad. I wish I actually saw the show. That seemed like it might have been interesting because I got about 3 slides in. Keep in mind, the beginning of my show, if anyone has seen it, is, as Ali said, the riskiest shit that you have ever seen, right? Like, this is shit that probably would have got Rodney Roode cancelled in the 90s. And I'm doing it now, in our today's climate. I am pulling out, the first 10 minutes goes hard of that show. It's like, it shocks me sometimes doing it. I think, fuck, do I really want to say this? So I'm at that part of the show. I could get 3 slides in. Total disinterest. You are not phasing these cunts at all, dude. This is water off a duck's back. This is nothing to
Yeah, dude.
Nothing.
The guy with the mullet isn't interested in the East Roman Empire.
But I thought that he'd be interested in me paying out every ethnicity on earth really harshly.
Yeah,
but
he
to
would
him,
be.
he's just like, yeah, I was talking about those points, but way worse before you started, mate. They don't care. They don't care. And so they're sitting there yelling about it and then doing the classic, do a shoey and all that shit. Anyway, afterwards, there was some educated people that walked in. But everyone that's educated there is not from Mackay. Everyone there is shipped up from the Queensland government saying someone has to try and educate these people. We have to at least give some token attempt, you know? So your doctors and your teachers, it's my audience. So it's going to be filled with a bunch of neckbeards, a lot of neckbeards that are doing the IT for the coal miners. There's going to be a lot of public servants that are in the audience. And then obviously there is just Mackay riffraff in there, which was probably about 60% of the audience. Anyway, some of them walk up to me and just saying, like, I couldn't get a word in, and they were saying, I'm a teacher here. My life is your show, but for 8 hours a day.
Oh, my God.
The dumbest place I've ever been. Anyway, I didn't notice this, but halfway through. So I'm just amused the whole time. I'm having the time of my life because, as I always say about far north Queensland, funnest place on earth. It's just Texas. It's filled with a bunch of cowboys. Cowboys know how to party. Cowboys are the funnest people on earth, you know? It would be them and then black dudes that have, like, block parties. But the white version of that is cowboys. They've got swagger. They've got charm. They're legends. They are absolute legends. And they just have a rootin' tootin' time. And anyway, it's filled with coal miners and all that shit. So anyway, they're sitting there. They're just yelling at me. I'm laughing my ass off at everything that they do. I'm so happy. I'm happy again that I don't have to do the show for the 100th time this year. And they're having a great time. Anyway, I didn't know this because it's dark and it's the back of the room. So there's, I don't know how many people in there, 200 or whatever. The police come in. I don't know why. I think it's just any time there is any form of public semblance in Mackay, you probably need a police presence, and you need a heavy police presence, right? I think that's why they were in there, purely just because, we heard that there's 200 Mackayans getting together. We better keep an eye on this shit.
Yeah, they just have thermal sensors to see which places have extra hot people in them.
I didn't know this. Dude, apparently they just came in to do a check-in. 7 of them. You know, fully right, squatted up fucking cops. I didn't see any of it. But anyway, some way through the show, because again, they're sitting there the whole time, have another drink, Geordie, yeah, fuck yeah, chug it, cunt. And I'm just sitting there drinking it all, yeah. So I'm getting drunk as shit. So again, I don't even remember half of the stuff that I'm saying there. I'm really looking forward to going back and looking at that show. But apparently, Miss Love said, there was a point where I said, Mackay, I love you to bits. You are easily the best audience I've ever had for all the wrong reasons. You're easily the best audience I've ever had. But you are also just a bunch of apes, aren't you? You are thorough. You're not human beings. You are apes. Anyway, the cops heard that apparently, and they were just like, yeah, and they started cheering on, and then they just fucking sat and watched the rest of the show. Like, they just fucking sat out. They sat out and was just like, yeah, give me a couple of beers, and they just sit there watching and just be like, you can't funny yet, and then they just fuck off. Anyway, then we're going around town afterwards. At the time of my life, look, I have to say this. I don't even know if the guy wants to be known as this, but I don't care. It's just the most awesome thing I've ever heard in my life. Some guy came up to us and he says, I want to make a donation to Geordie's. I can't remember how much it was, like $500 or something like that. And I was like, yeah, well, it was just to Mislav. And he said, I want to make a donation because he's a legend. And so he goes, $500. And so Mislav says, that's awesome. Thank you so much. And he goes, no skin off my nose. I won big in the lotto. Guess how much this guy won?
10,000?
$50 million. He's worth $50 million, dude.
What a fucking cheapskate for offering 500.
Yeah, I was thinking that too, I've got to say. But still, it's just, look, thank you very much for your donation, man. I can't remember what it was. It could be 500, 5,000, whatever. I'm very grateful for it. Thank you. $50 fucking million.
That is...
$50 million.
That is a
Still
life-changing amount times 5.
Huh?
That's a life-changing amount times 5.
Times 5.
That is incredible. Just sitting...
So much money.
Well, dude, if you live in Mackay with that heat, I think you deserve
Kind of
a lucky break every now and then.
And honestly, I still think that he probably wouldn't be the richest man in there because they're all fucking coal miners. They're all
Yeah,
rich as shit.
there'd be
They all
some-
just like, yeah, I used to be a coal miner and then I retired. How old are you? 35.
Yeah,
Just
but
that,
they
I
don't
know.
live there, dude. They fly in, fly out. The really rich ones.
Yeah.
Why would you live in Mackay if you were that
Don't
rich?
know. I mean, I do know because I was there and I lived there for the meme factor. But again, I live my life off of memes. But an average, normal human being, I don't know why you'd live there
Is that the most bumpkin place you went to or performed at?
easily. And I've performed in Cairns. Mackay
Wow,
was
I
something
want to
else.
go to Mackay.
Oh,
Dude, they should
so
just
fun.
hire you for tourism Mackay.
And you know what else as well? This is the whole thing. The
Planet
whole
of
time
the
I'm sitting
Apes
there-
in IRL.
Planet of the Apes IRL. That's what it is. I should advertise it like that. You know what else was incredible about that show? While I'm sitting there paying them out, saying that they're all a bunch of pinners, that they're all idiots, that they're all... Every insult I could ever hurl at them, I was hurling at them. And they were all sitting there, yay! And apparently, yeah, I remember this part as well. And even, this is incredible, I was like, fuck the Cowboys, they're a shit team. Everyone, yeah, fuck them, fuck the Cowboys, yeah, yeah. I thought that would get at them. I was just trying to silence them, right? I remember at some point in the show saying, fuck coal and fuck sugarcane. Dead silence. It's the only time I've ever fucking in the entire show. That was the only time they were ever silent. You could hear a pin drop. Sugarcane and coal is so heavily in their DNA.
Oh
That's
my
the
God.
only way you can offend them. The only way you can ever shut up a Mackay is to say coal sucks. That's it.
Wait, so what happened after that? Did they start heckling you?
No, they're just silent. And then I pointed it out, and they went, "Yeah!" And just went back to being rowdy. It was the rowdiest audience I've ever been to. It was incredible. I wish I could just exclusively perform to Mackay audiences. What is it?
You're just getting a call. It's dinner.
So anyway, that all happened. Next day, we fly out. Because again, like they refuse to let me leave. Anytime that I ever go to North Queensland, they don't let me leave. Last time I was in Townsville, these guys that were dressed up as cowboys literally lassoed me into a bar that had fucking the cowboy. That's what happens every time you're in there. Geordie's, get in here, you can't. Yeah, have a beer. That's what happened. So they were doing that. Wouldn't let me fuck off. I go and get the only thing that's open at 2 a.m. We go to sleep for 4 hours because we've got to get up at 6 a.m. to fly out of Mackay. We fly out of Mackay. We go to Brisbane. Qantas, thank you very much for your service as always. Greatest company that's ever existed. We get an announcement. Qantas would like to advise that the flight to Sydney has been delayed by 2 hours. Oh, okay, all right. Well, we'll sit around at the food court. Then we get a text message halfway through. And it says, Qantas would like to advise that the flight has been delayed by another hour. Okay, whatever. Then we get an announcement that comes over the megaphone. Because, as we've said before, this is why Qantas is so evil. They took all of our money during COVID to keep awake. They cut all of their staff. And then they decided, oh, we don't need them anymore. We'll just delay flights all the time. That's part of their policy now. Deliberately delay flights to Sydney, Canberra, because there's a bunch of other flights coming in the backlog. We'll just delay them. We'll cut the shit out of staff. the CEO will be hailed as this genius businessman for running a business that doesn't properly operate.
Yeah, they just put in flights and see how many people are buying it, and if it's below a certain threshold, they say the flight's been delayed and they move on to the next one. If that doesn't fill up, then they say it's been delayed and move everyone to the next flight. The only flights that don't get delayed, notice this, are the ones that are the lost flights because they have to go.
I can't believe it. That's policy.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. Oh, they're such a bad organization. They're obviously awful. And I got to say, hard to empathize with the Qantas staff, even though I understand that the reason that they are assholes, and they are, is just because they're endlessly smashed. Those poor people, constantly smashed. Think about it from a Qantas perspective. You're like dangerously understaffed all the time. You have constant hostile people coming at you saying, my flight's delayed, fuck you, I've got to go to this. It's endlessly. Your entire life is copping abuse and being stressed. I get why they are like that. But anyway, this just took the cake. I've never had this before. Over the intercom comes, look, he starts with this, I'm really sorry, okay? He starts with, I'm really sorry, all right? But your flight has been delayed massively. There's no flights are going out. Everything has been overspilled over at Virgin. You're not getting out. You are not getting out. We're going to have to delay your flights until 6:45 p.m. Keep in mind, we're in Qantas. We probably arrived at about 7 a.m.
Whoa.
Probably arrived at 7 a.m. Your flights are delayed until 6:45 p.m. And then we think, I am at that point saying to myself, let's just book a motel and go the next day. I can't be bothered to sit around here for what would it be at that point, maybe 8 hours, 7 maybe. I'm not sitting around at food court for 7 hours. Let's just get a hotel in Brisbane. Miss Love says, no, I've got to go. I've got a gig on that night. I have to go. I'm like, fine. We're sitting there for another 2 hours. Miss Love's just going through his phone. He looks at the text that they sent and then he goes, hey, they got the date wrong on our flight. I look at it. Our flight has been postponed to 6:45 the next day.
Whoa.
The next day. Our flight was delayed by 36 hours.
Whoa.
36 hours. I find out later that the whole network's been smashed. I don't know anything about this in Sydney, but it was just torrential rain. It's climate change. This is the age of climate change. You can't fly anymore. Climate change. So we obviously book a hotel. I have to go and buy clothes from Big W because we've got nothing. Our luggage is in Sydney.
Your luggage went.
Well, actually, it wasn't even that. That's another story in itself. But we thought it was in Sydney at the time. So I'm going out. I'm buying all these shirts for Miss Love. I get Miss Love a hilarious fat guy shirt that I see, which is just stripy white shirt. You know, like the classic, like fat guy in the 20s wearing like the naval stripe shirt. I'm just like, wear that. And then he's just like, okay. And then he's just walking around being like, I've never felt so comfy in my entire life. I'm laughing my ass off at that. He goes and sees another gig of some other, because Miss Love just knows everyone in this country.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter where you go. Even when he was in Mackay, I was like, Shawnee, hey man. Just anywhere that he goes, find someone. So he's there. I'm just working on my next stand-up show. So good. We go out the next day. I haven't felt like this. It's because I have to leave my bags at the airport, at the hotel, because you get kicked out at 10. I have to leave my bags there. I'm not connected to my laptop for the first time in my life. I realize that I'm extremely anxious when I'm not around my laptop. It was the first time that I can remember having nothing to do. So I was really happy about it, because it was, and oh my God, Ali, have you ever noticed that when you have nothing to do, time just spans out massively? I have never had a longer day. It honestly, in my life, that day felt like a week. It was incredible. Like, just really nothing to do. It was like being 15 with your friend walking around, but we're like 35-year-old guys walking around. And then he goes, I've got it. We'll go see a movie. We went and saw Gladiator 2. You want me to review Gladiator 2 or should I do it on the upload? Because that was just vile.
Oh, what the fuck? Okay, we'll keep it for the upload.
We'll keep it for the upload.
But dude, what a freaking week. So
It's not done yet. So anyway, sign up to the upload to hear my review of Gladiator 2, even though I'm probably going to release a video on that anyway, because of how much I hated that film. But on the main channel, it's going up there. Anyway, that's all well and good. I finally get to Sydney, which was delayed again. Until
no
8:45, so another 2 hours on top of that. So 38 hours we're in now. I did realise this, just as a public service announcement, if you ever do have your flights delayed by, I think, longer than 12 hours or something, you get an allowance.
Yeah,
you get all that stuff, so you can reimburse for it, so that's all good. Anyway, we finally get to Sydney, I think, at 11 p.m, because it was even when we were in the air, we were circling, due to weather delays, we can't land, and so we get there at 11
My God,
11
Qantas
PM,
sucks
so.
balls, doesn't it?
It does. But also, to be fair, it is Qantas being very shit and being Qantas plus climate change. That's so they do get some pass on that. We go there. I am going to the baggage claim to go and pick up the bags that we thought were delivered yesterday, because that's what Qantas told us. We're lining up. The Sydney Kings are there. And there's this annoying fat Jewish guy that's just like, I don't know, like the staff advisor or some shit. And he's just like the most stereotypical wigger you've ever met in your life, right? Like just tries so hard to be black. There are all these legitimate black basketballers. Some of them are African American. You know, some of them are African and some of them are African American. So they actually do speak Chicago, you know? They talk the talk. And then this guy's there just being like, yo, man, this is dope, yo. It was so cringe. And I had to listen to that for 2 hours while he's sitting there just being like, that's fire. Yo, 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 yo. Ugh, it was so annoying. And so I really wanted to kill him. Miss Love is just like, oh, I'm tired. So he just lies on a park bench in the fucking, and just goes to sleep. It just sleeps. And so I'm just sitting there having to stand there the whole time. Anyway, eventually I ring up Miss Love in this long line and I say, this isn't going anywhere. Can you just pick up the bags tomorrow? And he goes, no. And so it just goes back to sleep. I'm like, great. Anyway, I get to the front of the bags. They say, your bags aren't here. I was in that line from 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. the next day. And they say that the bags are fucking there. And then we get out, and Miss Love goes, in classic Miss Love style, dude, can't believe our bags weren't there. Probably could have come tomorrow. Hey, huh? I'm so angry. And then we get there. We try to call an Uber. We realize that the whole platform is just completely chock-a-block. Uber's not coming. Not coming. Then we hear all these. We see the cabs, and we think, okay, we'll go get a cab. I've never seen anything like it. Everyone is just furiously beeping at the cab line. No idea. Everyone's just bing, 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 bing. There's all these Indian guys yelling at other Indian guys in the line, being like, and then just driving off. Finally, it occurs to me when I get to the front of that cab line, which wasn't long. No one, it's incredible. People will sit around and wait for an Uber that isn't coming rather than catch a cab.
Yeah, no, it's insane.
It's insane. There's just a long line of cabs. You can get it. We go to the front. I see a guy getting out angrily of the guy that's at the front of the cab line, and I think there is no way this guy's going to drive us because we're fairly close to the airport. There's no way. Because again, Qantas is so shit that they've cut back on the staff of the guy that's supposed to be there to stop these assholes from when you go in and you say, I need to go somewhere, and then they just go, no, not long enough. And you can't. So anyway, the guy at the front is refusing to move because no one is giving him a ticket to fucking Bankstown or whatever. So he's refusing to move. And so everybody's beeping the shit out of him. So we just go to another guy in the aisle. I flip him to the bird at this point. It's 1 a.m. I'm just like, you know what, fuck you. I just flip him to the bird.
Why can't the people behind him just leave if they find a thing?
Huh?
He's blocked the exit?
He's blocked the number one position. And so they're not allowed to get it. But because he's not moving and because they're all just dodgy third world cunts, so they're just, okay, take you. And then we get into the cab and then he does the usual. We're traveling not far. And then he does the usual, okay, $50, okay? I'm like, you bastard. Not putting on the meter, but all right, fine, fuck you. It's worth every penny. And that was my weekend. That was
oh my God, dude, that sounds freaking dreadful.
It was dreadful.
I mean, the Mackay
really
stuff was awesome.
Huh?
The Mackay stuff was awesome because I got a snapshot of what life is like there without having to go. And I think I can do without that research. But dude, there is nothing worse than just waiting around at an airport. I don't know why that's so much worse. Because like if you weren't doing that, what you might be somewhere else doing exactly that, just like on your phone or some shit. But for some reason, it's painful.
I don't know what it is.
You used to love it. I hated it. I would get angry, and you'd be like, "It's all right, man. We're just chilling here."
I know. I don't know what's happened.
Yeah, 36
I think
hours
it's honestly
is
just
too
the
much.
fact that 36 hours is too much. I honestly don't mind airports that much even today. But I do catch airplanes so much because of my job that it's honestly just like catching the bus to school now. And it's the same as what it was when I was in high school. And then I look over and it's the guy I used to catch the bus with, but he's now the age of a dad looking back going, you think we can go to Taco Bill's?
But still saying exactly the same thing.
Same thing. And also the same thing there. Dude, can you spot me for Taco Bill's? Same thing.
Some things never
Same thing, but we're
change.
middle-aged.
Dude, that's a rock and roll week. Fuck. Well, we both of us are going to Rockhampton soon.
Hell yeah. I can tell you from experience, it's nowhere near as insane.
But I have heard Rockhampton is the beef capital of Australia.
Yeah, but all of its good beef gets exported for Kobe beef in Japan. So they just have shitty beef.
Just like the gas, why you take all of good shit Indonesia?
Yeah. Hey, though, I do want to try a steak while I'm there because I hear that they're so bad. I'll be the judge of that.
Well, I don't know about that. We'll look for a good one.